Good morning, second try. Everything seems to be going okay on this end, so I think we'll go ahead and give it another shot. We were having a little bit of a video delay there, so hopefully everything is going to be going smoothly now and we'll be able to get started. I'm going to give everybody a couple minutes to reconnect and get onto our live feed. And while we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and turn our oven on. Whether you're watching us live or you're joining later on, you're going to want to make sure you turn your oven on to 350 degrees. So, and I will mention that a couple of times, don't worry. All right, so I've turned the oven on to 350 degrees. That's what you want to do. We're going to be using the oven for our muffins. So today we're making two spring recipes that are really fun to make in the springtime. We're going to make some groovy green muffins and some chocolate bird's nests, kind of a granola bird's nests that are really fun in the spring. I don't know if any of you have noticed any bird's nests in your yard. I've noticed we have a lot of birds in our backyard, and I've definitely noticed some of them attempting to build nests and grabbing all the little twigs and branches and starting to build their nests. So that probably means we're going to see some baby birds soon. So we're going to go ahead and start with our muffins, since those do have to go in the oven, and then we'll work on our granola bird nests, which don't have to go in the oven. We'll just put them into the fridge for a little bit, and that kind of hardens them up, and then they're ready to go. So it doesn't take too long. We're going to go ahead and start with the muffins, like I said. So turn your oven on to 350 degrees if you haven't turned it on already. And you can find the recipes for our class today right on our Facebook page. You can also find the recipe sheet in the Facebook event as well. And there's a printable list as well as a list written out of all the tools and the ingredients you need as well. So if you're doing this class live or you're doing it after the fact, you can go ahead and grab that stuff so you're ready to go. We're going to go ahead and start with preparing our pan for our muffins. And you can make these groovy green muffins either mini-sized or regular sized. It doesn't matter. Either way will work fine. The only difference is that if you're making the mini muffins, they might cook a little quicker, a little faster. They won't need quite as long in the oven, so you'll just watch them a little closer. I think I'm going to go ahead and make the mini size today, but you can do either one. So I've got a mini muffin pan. So go ahead and get your muffin pan, whether it's mini or regular size, and then grab some liners if you have them. If you don't have liners, go ahead and grease them with, I usually use coconut oil, but you can definitely use olive oil, butter, anything that you have that will just sort of prevent them from sticking. These muffins love to stick to the pan, so it's always a good idea. I usually do liners just because it makes it, if I have them on hand, it makes it easy to just kind of have little grab and go snacks, and a little less cleaning of the pan is required. All right. This will probably make enough to fill up this whole pan, which is 24 mini muffins, which is about the same as 12 regular sized muffins. I've made this recipe countless times, and it seems like every time it's a little different as far as how much you get, which is true of muffins and cookies and things like that. A recipe might say, oh, it makes 12, and then you go to make it and it doesn't quite make 12. All right, well, I don't quite have all the liners, so I'll just make however many liners I have, and maybe if I have extra batter, I'll grease those ones, and then we can put it in there. All right, so once you have your pan totally ready to go, then we're going to start making our batter. And the reason why I like to just kind of get the pan ready ahead of time is it just kind of makes it easier once you have your batter ready that your pan is already ready and you can just put them right in it. One of the things about this recipe is we add the baking powder at the very end of the batter and kind of mix it in quickly, and that way you get that reaction between the baking powder and the liquid ingredients in the batter, and you kind of get that bubbly reaction, which is what kind of helps our muffins get light and fluffy and airy. So we don't want that reaction to completely be done by putting it in too early, and we don't want the batter to sit too long. It's fine if your batter sits for a little while, but I like to get the batter in the oven right away. So I'm going to go ahead and set these aside for now so we can start working on our batter. And if anyone is having any issues with the video, go ahead and comment, let me know, and we'll try to get it going. So far on my end, it seems to be working again, so I'm not sure what happened when we first started. Gotta love technology for sure. I feel like every time we get the fancier tools and the fancier cameras, then there tends to be issues. But all right, so we're gonna get started. This is probably one of my favorite parts of making this groovy green muffin batter is we're gonna mash up 2 ripe bananas. So you can see mine are nice and ripe. They've got these beautiful little brown spots all over. No, that does not mean they're bad. It just means they're really ripe. And they're a little mushy, so you might not want to have them as a snack. I don't mind it, but one of my daughters for sure, she does not. If it's even the slightest bit mushy, she's like, no thank you. But they're perfect for baking. So, and also another thing about ripe bananas is they're sweeter. The riper they are, the sweeter they are, which is good because it's going to make our muffins nice and sweet. So get your bananas in your bowl, peel them, put them in your bowl. All right, now comes the fun part. We're going to mash them up. So get your masher, and you're just going to keep mashing them. The trick is you want banana soup. Banana goop, banana soup. You want to mash them really, really well until they're really mashed up and goopy. And you'll kind of notice the more you mash, I'm just getting started. It's still pretty chunky, but as I mash, it'll start to get liquidier and goopier, which is exactly what you want. You're making banana soup. A lot of times when we do this in a class, live class, or in-person class, we take turns, so we get it really mashed up. So today we're going to have to work extra hard and use our muscles, our culinary muscles, to get it all mashed up. And if you're working with another person in your family, you guys can take turns mashing, and they're just going to mash it all up. Now, you could toss this in the blender with the other ingredients if you wanted. I have made it both ways, and I just kind of prefer it this way. You kind of get more of that banana that's not all liquefied into the muffin, but it's just more goopy. Also, it's really fun to mash bananas. It's a good stress reliever, so if you need to relieve any stress, this is the ticket. Give it a good mash, you'll start feeling better for sure. And something tells me a lot of us could use some banana mashing right about now. All right, that looks awesome. So I'm going to show you my banana soupy goopy here. It's pretty goopy. Yeah, there's still some chunks, and that's good. You don't want it to be complete purified liquid. You just want it to be sort of liquidy, soupy, goopy banana goop. All right, so now that we're done mashing our banana goop, we're going to set this aside. We're going to need it in just a little bit, but we'll just set it aside for now, and we'll grab it in just a little bit. I'm going to throw this in the sink. All right, so we're done with our masher. Now, some of you might be wondering where my assistants are today. My assistants / daughters are upstairs doing some of their online school, but they did ask if they could come down and taste test our recipes when they're done. So, and I said for sure. They love having that job of taste tester for sure, as well as helping in the kitchen, which is always fun. And if you're balancing online school and online work and different things, that's the great thing about these classes is that we're going to leave them on our Facebook page. We're going to add them to our YouTube page eventually, so people will be able to go back and do them at any time, whatever works for you, when you've got all your ingredients and all your tools ready. All right, so the next step is we're going to grab our blender. So I got my blender thing here. And the one thing to remember when using a blender is just when you're adding ingredients, make sure you kind of add from above and you don't stick your hand into the blender because the blade at the bottom is pretty sharp no matter what type of blender you have. So we're going to use our Vitamix here, but you don't have to have a high-powered blender. Any blender for this recipe will work because we're not blending up anything really, really hard like celery or something. So really any blender that you have. And you could use a food processor as well if you don't have a blender. We're going to go ahead and add in our spinach. So I've got a cup of spinach here, and I packed it pretty full because I wanted the muffins to be a little green. I love that green color, so I packed it really full. Now some of you might be wondering, because when we make this recipe, 9 times out of 10 we get asked this question, can you taste the spinach? And the answer is a little, but no, not really. These turn into more of just a sweet muffin. Spinach is naturally sweet, so you kind of get that sweetness from it, but it's not overpowering. It doesn't taste like you're eating just a piece of plain spinach. But so I think I've had people who love spinach like these muffins and people who don't really like spinach plain like these muffins. So you'll just have to see if you're making them at home, what you think of when you try them, or maybe you're making them for somebody else that you know would love them. So now that we've got our spinach into our blender, we're going to go ahead and add some flour. So we're adding in a 1/2 cup of flour, and you can add in any type of flour. I'm just using Bob's Red Mill 1-to-1 gluten-free flour today, because that's what I have on hand, but any type of flour is really good in this. All-purpose flour, oat flour, just add in a 1/2 cup of flour right into your blender, right on top of your spinach. I know it sounds weird, but it'll work. And then we're going to add in 3 eggs. So what I like to do when I'm cracking eggs, and I know a lot of grown-ups sometimes are really nervous about having the kids crack the eggs just because it can be really tricky, but it is a wonderful way for kids to get involved in the kitchen is have them start practice cracking eggs. So one way that we do it is we like to give it a firm tap on the side of whatever container we want it to go in. If we're cracking it into a bowl, and you can always crack it into a bowl first and then add it to the blender, but whatever you're going to add it into first, you want to use the side of that so you don't kind of trail egg goop everywhere. So I'm going to give it a firm tap, and it's going to make a little crack or a little hole. I'm going to take my thumbs, I'm going to gently push them into the hole and pull it apart. That just means our oven is up to temp. Alright, so I pulled it apart and perfect. And if you do get any shell into your bowl or your blender, you can just take a piece of the shell and kind of scoop it out. If it's in your blender, have your grown-up help you so you don't have to put your hand into the blender because, like I said, the blade is sharp. This way is the way that I found gets the least amount of shells, but even me, I still sometimes get shells in. And what works is you can just take a piece of the shell that's broken and kind of scoop out any pieces of shell. I don't see any in there, but if I did have some, that's what I would do. All right, so now we've got our eggs in the blender. And our next ingredient we're going to add to the blender is our last blender ingredient, and that's some honey. We're going to add in 2 tablespoons of honey. And if you really like honey, you could bump it up a little. Make it 3 tablespoons maybe 2.5. I'm going to do 2 pretty hearty tablespoons here. Remember, you've got the banana that we mashed up, so the 2 things that make these muffins sweet are banana and honey. So I'm going to make it pretty heavy on the honey there. Kind of did 2 heaping tablespoons. So the next step is we're going to blend up our spinach, our flour, our eggs, and our honey. And we're going to mix it into our banana mixture that we mashed up. And then lastly, we'll fold in that baking powder that we talked about. And then we'll get it in our muffin pan. So it's really pretty simple. I'm going to go ahead and blend it up over here on the counter and get it all mixed up. You guys can go ahead and take the opportunity to blend yours up as well. And again, any type of blender will work. And I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. We're going to try to blend it up pretty well, but there's probably going to be little bits of spinach that you can still see, and that's perfectly fine. So go ahead and blend it up for a couple minutes. Scrape the sides a little. Any flour is stuck on the side. And I'm going to blend just a little bit more. right, I've got our blended mixture. Kind of looks like a green smoothie. I'm just kind of scraping the side a little. There's just a little bit of flour and kind of mixing that in. If you have like a really big chunk of flour, you might want to go ahead and hit the blender up again a little bit more after you've scraped the sides. This was just a kind of a little bit of a dusting and it kind of mixed in. So it kind of looks like a green smoothie and it's pretty liquidy, which is good. And I'm just going to go ahead and gently pour it into our bowl that we added our mashed banana to. And I'm going to use a spoon or a spatula to kind of scrape the sides because I want to try to get every last bit of what was in our blender. And again, a grown-up might need to help with this part just to make sure that we're not sticking our hand near the blade of the blender, which is pretty sharp. And that's why I kind of like to use a long spoon or a spatula, just kind of to scrape it so I don't have to put my hand near the blade. There we go. All right, my blender looks pretty cleaned out. Let's see if there's any more of that delicious green stuff. There we go. All right, so now I've gone ahead and added my green smoothie-ish looking mixture into our bowl. I'm going to get our baking powder added in, and then our batter is going to be completely ready. All right, so we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of baking powder and then just fold our mixture all together. So add in 1 teaspoon of baking powder. And I'm grabbing a big spoon or a big spatula, and you'll just kind of fold the mixture together. And just kind of make sure, the trick is just to kind of get everything incorporated, kind of scrape down to the bottom, fold it together so you're getting all that banana mixture and all that baking powder mixed into your goopy green mixture. And then what I like to do is just kind of scrape down to the bottom and flip it over. That's folding when it comes to the kitchen. A little different than, say, folding clothes. You kind of slide to the bottom, flip it over. All right, and that looks really good. I'm just going to mix the mixture until it's incorporated. I don't want to overmix. Again, like I said with the baking powder, we want that reaction where we get the air bubbles. And if I look closely, go ahead and look really closely at your batter, you'll see a lot of little air bubbles popping up. That's what's happening. So I'm going to go ahead and stop now because it's all mixed together and I don't want to overmix it. I wanted to just mix it till it's well combined. Now we're going to go ahead and get it in our muffin pan. All right. I like to use a measuring cup or a spoon to fill my muffins. I'm going to go ahead and use a measuring spoon here. This one's a tablespoon since I'm doing mini muffins. But if you're using regular muffins, you know, a 1/4 cup is a great size. And I'll probably just do a couple scoops here for both, or for each one. Now, no matter how hard I try, I always spill on the pan. I know some people are geniuses at this, but I am just naturally kind of messy cook, so I always do. So one tip is wipe it off the pan before you start to bake it, just because it will kind of bake onto the pan and then be harder to clean later on. So if you do drip batter on the pan, which I am doing, you can go ahead and wipe it off before you cook it. All right, this is looking great. So go ahead and fill your muffin cups up. About 2/3 full, 3/4 full. They do puff up a little bit, so you don't want to fill them to the point where they're overflowing, or you're going to end up with oozing muffin everywhere. But just about 3/4, 2/3 full is usually good. All right. That looks pretty good. I do have enough batter here to do these other ones that I ran out of liners for, so I think I'll go ahead and grease them up a little. I'm just going to use some coconut oil because I already have it on hand since we need that for our granola recipe. All right, and I'm just greasing up these little ones that didn't have liners. Typically, I wouldn't do that. I would try to do all the same way, either all greasing or all liners. But in these times, we tend to run out of things or maybe not have as much of something. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and fill these ones that don't have liners that I just greased. I don't want to waste any of this yummy batter. I know everyone in my house likes these muffins, so they will probably go pretty quickly, which is another reason why I make them mini size, because then it feels like they last longer. Even though technically we have the same amount of muffin. Alright, so now I'm going to go ahead and wipe the pan, like I talked about how I spilled batter everywhere. Just a little bit, doesn't have to be perfect, just so that I don't have tons of crispy batter cooking on the top of the pan. There we go, that looks pretty good. Alright, perfect. I'm going to go ahead and pop these in the oven, and they're going to take about 15 to 20 minutes is what the recipe says. Since I'm making a mini, I'll probably check on them in 10 minutes because they could cook quicker. That's a tongue twister for sure. That should be added to the list of tongue twisters. But they might cook a little faster than if I was making full size. All right, I set my timer for 10 minutes. That way we can check on them and just make sure. And they might need all the way up to 15 minutes, but this will just make sure that they don't burn since I'm making them the small size. And while they're cooking, we're going to go ahead and make our granola nests. All right, so I'm going to grab another bowl. So go ahead and grab another one of your large bowls to mix up some of our granola nest mixture in. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to kind of mix up some dry ingredients, and then in a glass measuring cup, or you can use the stove, a small saucepan on the stove, we're going to melt up our sort of liquid ingredients and combine them together. And what we're going to use to make our nests is just a muffin liner you can use. If you don't have a muffin liner, just grab a little bit of parchment or grease up a little bowl. You can just put it inside a bowl. You can also put it inside a muffin tin. We won't be baking them. We'll be putting them in the fridge, but you can just go ahead and set it right inside the muffin tin. Anything that'll kind of help you make a nest shape. If you don't have anything, you can just do it straight in the liner, but sometimes the weight of it will kind of spread it out a little. You'll just end up with a little bit wider nest, which is totally fine. I'm just going to go ahead and put a few liners in my regular muffin tin here so that we can make some granola nests in it. And again, you can just do it in a bowl. You can just do it in a little dish and just grease the dish if you don't have any parchment or a liner. Anything sort of that's rounded and will help give you that nest shape, because the chocolate's going to kind of harden in whatever shape we put it in, and we kind of want to turn it into that nest shape. So we're going to go ahead and add into our big bowl our dry ingredients. The first thing we're going to add is some oats. We need 2 cups of oats, just plain oats like you would use if you were making oatmeal, baking, anything that's unsweetened. If you only have like oatmeal packets or sweetened ones, that would work too, but you might just want to add less of the chocolate chips, which is the sweet ingredient that we're adding. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to half this recipe because I don't think I'm going to make quite as many as the recipe that I gave you guys. This one will make quite a few nests. So I'm going to go ahead and add 1 cup of oats, but if you're making it to the recipe at home, you'll add 2 cups of oats. Using these quick cooking oats, but you can also use old-fashioned oats, which one of the classes that we did, I called them slow cooking oats because I couldn't remember the name. So any type of oats will work. I'm just going to add in 1 full cup of oats into our bowl. And then the next ingredient is shredded coconut. And again, the recipe calls for the same amount as for oats, so 2 cups. I'm going to add 1 cup since I'm taking the recipe down in half. So go ahead and add 2 cups of coconut or 1 cup of coconut if you're halving it like me. And I've just got some shredded coconut here. You can use any type of coconut. It can be large flake coconut. It can be a different type of shredded. I usually use unsweetened because we're going to kind of sweeten it up already. But if you've ever seen a bird's nest, you know they do not all look the same. They're all a little different, and they pull whatever they can find, grass and twigs and sticks. So really any type of coconut will totally work for this. So I'm going to go ahead and dump my shredded coconut in the bowl. Next thing we're going to add is a 1/4 cup of chia seed. And if you don't have any chia seed on hand, I know it's an ingredient that not everybody keeps in stock, and you might not have, you can omit it and leave it out of the recipe. I love it in this recipe. Chia seed is really good for you. It tastes great in granola, and it also really helps give it that bird's nest look. But if you don't have it, do not feel bad. You can totally just leave it out. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a 1/4 cup of chia seed to add into our mixture. So we're going to add in a 1/4 cup of chia seed. There we go. Nice. And if you're looking at your mixture, it's already starting to look like a bird's nest, and we haven't even added anything. And next we're going to add 1/2 cup of raisins. Now, if you don't have raisins, you could do dried cranberries or another dried fruit. Again, I love how the raisins look in the nest. They really kind of look like maybe little pebbles or something that the birds would find on the ground to kind of weave together into their little nests. It's pretty cool how they do that. How they just make all these little bits and pieces that they find and turn them into something really beautiful, actually, that makes a wonderful home for their eggs. All right, we're going to go ahead, dump our raisins in. So that was a 1/2 cup of raisins or other dried fruit that you have on hand. And then we're just going to mix up all these dry ingredients to get them nice and evenly combined. So take another one of your big spatulas here and just kind of mix up the mixture. You just kind of want to make it nice and even. It does kind of already look like the beginnings of a bird's nest for sure. There we go, that looks awesome. So now we're just going to set aside our dry ingredient. We're going to kind of work on our liquid ingredient. That's what's going to really hold together our nests and kind of help them keep their shape and also sweeten them up a little bit. So again, we were going to go ahead and do coconut oil next. So I'm going to grab a measuring cup. I'm just using a glass measuring cup to go ahead and mix the stuff in. And then I'll go ahead and sort of microwave it a little bit at a time, stir it, microwave a little bit at a time, stir it. If you don't have a microwave, that's fine. You can definitely do it with just a small saucepan on the stove. Just keep it on really low heat and kind of stir while you're melting. And again, you'll need a grown-up to be helping with that if you're using the stove, if kids are cooking. For the microwave, I'm just going to dump everything into this glass measuring cup because it kind of works together. But if you're using a saucepan, just put it all in the saucepan. So the first thing that we need is coconut oil. And if you're making the full batch, you'll need 2 tablespoons of coconut oil. So I'm going to go ahead and get our coconut oil right into our measuring cup. The cool thing about coconut oil is when it's at room temperature, it's kind of this white solid, but it has a pretty low melting point. So all you have to do is rub it between your fingers and it turns into a clear oil. So it melts really fast and quickly, and it also hardens up really fast and quickly. So that's another reason that it really helps kind of hold our nests together. Next, we're going to add in, if you're adding the full amount, a 1/4 cup of peanut butter. And you can also use sun butter, almond butter, any nut or seed butter that you have on hand for sure. And if you didn't have any of those and you want to completely omit it, you could definitely omit it. You just have a little bit of a crunchier nest, and that would be totally fine. All right, so if you're making the full batch, you'll add a 1/4 cup of peanut butter. Right? Or sun butter or almond butter. I've made this recipe with sun butter lots of times because a lot of times we'll do these granola nests, a very similar recipe to this, for events. And so we want to make them nut-free, and it tastes really good with sun butter. So really any nut or seed butter will work. Alrighty. Okay, so let's see, one more ingredient left, and that is our chocolate chips. So if you're making a full batch, you'll need 2 cups of chocolate chips. If you're making the half batch, you'll need 1 cup of chocolate chips. One thing to keep in mind is it's okay to do a little less chocolate chips. You don't have to go quite as much as the recipe says. It'll still hold it together pretty well if you reduce it a little bit. Or if you really love chocolate chips, you could actually increase it a little bit too. So I'm going to add in my chocolate chips. And then I'm going to go ahead and microwave about 30 seconds at a time. And then each time I take it out of the microwave, I'm going to stir it and check it and make sure that it doesn't seize up or get hard and crunchy before I can get it all melted and nice and smooth. And then we'll mix it together with our granola ingredients. And that is our timer for our oven. So I'm going to go ahead and check on our muffins. Ooh, they look great. I definitely think I'm going to give them a couple more minutes. They are almost done. I'm going to go ahead and put 4 minutes. So I did 10 minutes for the mini muffins, and then I'm adding another 4. Again, I just keep a close eye on them when you're baking. If you're making the full-size muffins, they could take 15 to 20. Kind of depends on everybody's oven. I think the best trick when you're baking is really just keeping an eye on things, because I've made recipes, the same exact recipe, the same way, in the same oven before and had it come out completely different. So it's always a good idea just to keep a good eye on it. So now I'm kind of stirring up my chocolate peanut butter coconut oil mixture. It's starting to melt nicely, and that coconut oil is melting. Well, it's completely melted here. And it's kind of liquidy, but also still a little chunky. So I know I got to give it a little more time. I'm going to give it another 30 seconds, and then I'm going to stir again, and then we'll see if it's ready then or if it needs another bit of time. Now, for things to go inside our nests, you can use whatever you have on hand. I bet a lot of people have Easter candy left, so you can go ahead and grab some Easter candy. My daughter gave me a few jelly beans that she had left, and I've got some dried cranberries and some pistachios. Really, any nuts, seeds, dried fruit, or candy makes anything kind of round makes great little eggs to go inside our little granola nests. So whatever you can kind of find would be perfect. All right, I think this might be it. I'm going to go ahead and stir our mixture. And I can still see chocolate chips in there, but as I stir it, it starts to liquefy really quickly. The warmth from the rest of the mixture melts those chocolate chips really fast. So you can see our mixture looks nice and smooth, really good. I'm going to give it a few more stirs. So I only needed to do 2 30-second times. And if you're doing it on the stove, just keep it on low and kind of stir it continuously, the best that you can, just to make sure that it kind of melts evenly. I think the trick with melting chocolate is, and you can also use a double boiler if you have one of those, but the trick with melting chocolate is it probably takes less time than you think. So don't walk away. We've learned that lesson, definitely myself and some of our other instructors, we've learned that lesson where we step away for 1 second from our chocolate and whoops, burned it or seized it, and we have to start over. So it's definitely happened to me. So it's definitely a good idea to keep an eye on your chocolate. I'm going to go ahead and stir this up together. So dump your chocolate into your dry ingredients, get it all mixed in. And then we're going to go ahead and turn it into nests. And it doesn't take very long. So I'm just using my big spatula here that I use to mix up the dry ingredients. My trick is I kind of want to get that chocolate on all of the mixture the best that I can. And kind of when you're mixing, it might look like, oh, it's never going to work. The more you kind of mix and mash it, the more that chocolate just spreads to everything. So you really want to give it a good stir for a few minutes, and don't give up easily. Just keep going. And if you're using teamwork, you can go ahead and take turns stirring. Well, it looks to me like my assistants have come down to see if anything's ready to eat. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good. How's your online school going?
Good. Almost finished.
Almost finished. Whoa. I'm sure that a lot of people out there are doing online school. Do you have any tips for them or advice?
Don't get like too over it, because it's still going to be like maybe even harder, but the same amount as normal school. So don't feel bad if you're not doing perfect on it.
Maybe don't feel bad if you're not doing it the entire day long.
I feel like mine is going so hard that I think I need to try whatever that is.
Oh, well, it's almost ready. These are our granola nests. And did you guys hear that timer?
Yeah.
Yeah, that means I need to check the oven. So I'm going to go ahead and see. I think our muffins they look perfect. And I can't wait to show everybody. We're going to have to let them cool a little before we taste test them.
Whoa.
But here's our groovy green muffins. And you can see they puffed up quite a little bit. They look really yummy. I'm going to set them over here to cool a little bit, so you guys can try them really soon. And then let's put these nests together. Did you guys wash your hands?
Yeah. I
Okay, wash your hands and you can help us finish up these nests. So now remember, I'm using the muffin pan with the liners to make our nests, but you can also do it just in a bowl or with a cup and make your nests that way. So let's grab we'll grab a spoon. I was going to say a spatula, but you can either use a small spatula or a spoon, and we're just going to take our chocolate mixture and push it into our muffin cup to kind of shape a nest. So you'll really take that spoon, push it down into the center, and kind of push the granola mixture up the sides. And then we'll pop it into the freezer for just a little bit. But you guys can just put them in the fridge if you want and give them like 5-10 minutes to harden up. We'll do ours in the freezer just to speed up the process so we can show. And let me show you kind of what this looks like here. I just kind of squished it into the shape of a little chocolate nest there. All right, girls, go ahead.
Hey, Isla, do you think if birds
Here, B,
had
you can
made
use
their
this
nests edible, they'd eat them?
No.
Well, I think that might be bad if you needed it for a home for your
Good point.
eggs. If you ate your nest. These ones will be edible and they will be really delicious.
I totally eat a bird nest if it was
All
edible.
right, that looks really good. Maybe put a little indentation in the middle. I think you have enough mixture. If you get it too full, it won't quite harden up. So squish down. Good, that looks good. Now let B do one.
Where should I set this?
We'll just put it back in the bowl. And if you end up with extra granola mixture after you've made however many nests you want, you can just go ahead and kind of lay it out on a parchment-lined sheet pan or container, pop it in the fridge for a little bit till it gets a little bit crunchy, and then just store it in an airtight container in the fridge, and you have some chocolate granola that you can put on top of. What do we like to put granola on?
Yogurt.
Yogurt. Ooh, super good on yogurt. Smoothies.
Everything.
Everything.
Except wet sauce stuff.
Except like not on your sandwich.
Yeah.
It might be good if you put it on a peanut butter sandwich. Yeah, maybe. All right, that looks awesome. Well, let's pop these in the freezer for a few minutes, and then we'll see if we can try our muffins. So that they harden up so we can demonstrate what they look like when we're all done. So we're just putting our nests into the freezer, but you can just put them into the fridge to give them 5 to 10 minutes to harden up. And that chocolate and that coconut oil harden up pretty quickly. And then just store them. If you make them and you're not eating them all right away, store them in a little an airtight container in the fridge so that they stay refrigerated. Just because of the chocolate chips and the coconut oil, if you leave them out on the counter for too long, they'll start to get a little melty. Let's see. Let me see if our muffins are cool enough. You guys want to try them? Okay, let's see. I'm guessing that they're cooling down. Ooh, yeah. I'm going to grab a couple for you guys, okay?
Yay.
It might be a little hot, so we'll cut it open maybe and blow on it a little. That way. Usually we like to give our muffins more time to cool, right?
Right.
But since we want to taste test them, they're pretty hot still, actually.
I like hot things.
Yeah, you like hot things. I'm thinking we peel the muffin a little bit and then let it cool. It's like steam's coming off of it, so maybe give it a little bit of time. Yeah. Make this. Blow on it. Don't put it in your mouth yet, okay?
Mmm.
Here, I'll help you, Bee. Oop. That is if I don't drop it on the floor.
It's good.
It's good. So, and these muffins will peel even better too if we let them cool longer. Blow on that, Bee. You're gonna give it a thumbs up?
Yeah.
Thumbs up.
really
It's
good.
tasty. So, and then we were talking a little bit about if you could taste
Groovy.
the spinach. And I was saying that you can't really. What do you think? What do you taste the
can't.
most? Banana?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it tastes groovy.
It tastes groovy because they're groovy green muffins. Awesome. And if you want, you can lick the wrapper as they are doing, right? But don't eat the wrapper because that's
It
paper.
does not taste good.
Yeah, it does not taste good. Lesson learned from Bianca, don't eat your wrappers, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is a fun recipe to make for spring because you get these bright green muffins, and usually you can always find spinach in the spring, which is awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and grab our chocolate nests from the freezer. I know that was only a couple minutes, but we'll see if they're hard enough to show how they look.
Put the things in them.
And we can put the things in them. So what we have here is, what we were talking about is we have some dried cranberries. We've got, we had some little marshmallows that we found.
Ooh.
And we had some pistachios, which they really look like a little egg, you can see.
And some
And we have some jelly beans.
And we have a few jelly beans that Isla gave me from her Easter basket. So, all right, don't eat it. We have to put it in the nest. You little
Thank
jelly
you.
beans. Those are the last jelly beans in the house. You cannot thieve them. All right, let's check on them. What do you think? Are they going to be done?
You're totally going to use the marshmallows, right, Ella?
Well,
Ooh, they're looking good. I think they need a little more time, but we'll pull them out. They'll be good enough to show. And then we'll maybe put ours in the fridge for a little bit. So you can see how our nests look. Let's go ahead. I want to put one jelly bean in this one, one pistachio, and one cranberry. I'm going to get a mix of different types of eggs. Probably not going to see that too much in nature, but you never
I'm
know.
getting 2 of these and one of this.
Ooh, that looks good. And then we'll show what
These
it
are
looks
weird
like.
eggs.
I'm
Those are
gonna-
weird eggs. You know, if you have a marshmallow eggs, you might want to use your fingers and squish them a little, turn them into more of a, kind of roll them so you get that sort of egg little shape. They're not that squishable, but there you go. That looks good. Yeah, it looks like a little egg. I'm guessing a lot of people have Easter candy left over that might be in the shape of an egg, so you could totally put that in there. So let's show what it looks like here. You can see our little bird's nest. And you
I'm going
can,
to put one of everything in mine.
and you can see,
Plop, plop, plop.
again, these weren't in the freezer very long, but when I start to sort of peel the side, you can see how it holds together. And it's going to hold together even better when we put them back in the fridge for a little bit longer, probably 5 or 10 minutes. And then we'll be able to just pick them right up out of the liner and just eat them like you would a granola bar. They're just like a granola bar, only they're in the shape of a bird's nest, which is awesome. We would love to see pictures, or we would love to hear how the recipes turn out. If you made them with us live, or you come back and make this at a later date, we would absolutely love to see pictures. We just love seeing all the pictures people have posted in the comments, or people are emailing and sending us direct messages to show us pictures, whatever you're comfortable with. We love being able to see that other people are cooking and making the recipes, and we love sharing these recipes with you and cooking together. We have another great class planned for next Wednesday, so we hope you'll join us then. Thank you so much for cooking with us. And what is it that we're supposed to say? I said have a yummy day, but what was it that you said?
Out.
Oh, yeah, that's what it is. Okay, go ahead, Isla, you say it.
Yummy Sprout out.
Yummy Sprout out.
Bye.